For this episode, I wanted to create different areas for Bob to explore. I started working on them, but very quickly came to the conclusion that I had to upgrade the user experience. The text on the screen, the lack of feedback, it's fine for me as a programmer, but off-putting for the player. Here's how that went. I've started working on, hopefully, the first of many different areas. This will be a simple grassland. It's the easiest to make, but it will produce some useful features. I've made some different tiles for the grass. Most of the tiles will be just a plain green. I don't want to add details to every tile, because in my opinion that will look noisy. 1 out of 10 tiles will have some detail. Then, to break up the green of the grass, I'll add flowers. I've made 3 versions of the flower tile. Here the flowers are placed randomly on the map, but I don't like that. It looks kind of unnatural. Instead, I want patches of the same tile spread on the map. Here's the first try. It will look better if there's a different kind of flower. Let's add these small blue flowers. But we can't have a map without trees. Let's put some in the grassland. Not only will it look better, it will be more fun to play if there are obstacles between Bob and the enemies and potions. The first try looks a bit off. All the trees are evenly spaced. It looks a bit like some forests in my country. There's a saying, God created the earth, but the Dutch created the Netherlands. It's comical to see how some of our forests and parks have trees perfectly aligned on a grid. That's not the look I'm going for. It's the result of my code keeping buildings from touching each other. So I've removed that code for this area. Also, I've changed the appearance of the trees. It was a suggestion from a viewer and I think it's an improvement. Thank you! While I was working on the grass area, it began to bother me how prototype my game was looking. I need to get rid of the text on the screen, and the player needs more feedback on where Bob can walk and what he can do. I had another suggestion from a viewer to change the mouse cursor according to the tile it's hovering over, which is a great idea. I've created some sprites for the cursor. This is a boot. I'll probably have to update the sprite in the future, but for now it's fine. The boot means the tile is within the range of the number of moves. The sword is pretty obvious, it's for attacking. And here's a hand for picking up potions. I must admit, the sprite doesn't really fit with Bob, because Bob is blue and doesn't have hands, but I think the meaning is pretty clear. I love how these small changes really upgrade the game. Next, I'll remove the text and replace it with icons. This is of course quite easy to do and I should have done it earlier. In RPGs and roguelikes, it's sometimes strategically better to end your turn before you run out of moves. To let your enemies come to you one by one. At this point, when you want to end your turn, you have to press the E key. This isn't obvious at all, so I've made this button. Right now, you have to scroll the screen yourself using the arrow keys to follow Bob around, which is pretty stupid. Let's make a camera object that keeps Bob in the center of the screen. That works fine, until you want to see what's going on at the other side of the map. We still need some way to manually scroll the map. I'll use the mouse and the right mouse button for this. I'm not entirely happy about it, but let's fix that later. While playtesting, I noticed that my object hiding code was flawed. Before I had changed the map, it had worked the way I wanted it. But when there are trees huddled together, some tiles remain obscured however you move the mouse cursor. That's because it can store only one building per tile. I have to change the code quite a bit, because I hadn't foreseen this. I'll take the opportunity to refactor. I spent a whole day upgrading my code and in the end the game looked almost identical to what it was before. But it's good practice every once in a while to take some time to clean up your code. In the long run, this will pay off. And in the end, I fixed the issue where you couldn't reach every tile. It's a bit annoying when you scroll the map. The camera will jump right back to Bob as soon as you let go of the mouse button. I'll change it so that the camera will scroll to Bob only when he moves. If he's not doing anything, you can take your time to look around and enjoy the scenery. And you don't need the right mouse button anymore to scroll. Simply move your mouse to the edge of the screen and the camera will follow. I have to make some changes to the enemy behavior. I don't like the way all enemies from across the map will instantly start to hunt you down. It feels unfair. it would be more interesting if the monsters would only attack you once they've noticed you. As a player, now you should plan your moves more, be more stealthy. I've made a sprite for a sleeping monster and an exclamation mark to signal that he notices Bob. When Bob approaches a monster, it will wake up and attack Bob. Sometimes it happens that all enemies are asleep. If you run out of moves, you have to end your turn and immediately it will be your turn again, since the enemies won't do anything. That isn't very logical. Let's change it. Now when all enemies are sleeping, you have unlimited moves. Also, I'll remove the end turn button. It isn't very practical to move your mouse to the corner of the screen every time you need to end your turn. Now a simple right mouse button click will do. It's time to add something that hugely improves the game experience: sounds. They make a game so much more real. I can highly recommend taking some time to add them to your game. It will make the game more immersive and give feedback to your player on what's going on. You can never give too much feedback. Here's the sound for walking, attacking and drinking a healing potion. Bob is a bit overpowered. The monsters are weaklings which Bob can strike down with one blow. Let's make it harder for Bob and give the enemies some more hit points. And they need a health bar. These baddies are a lot tougher now and the outcome of the battle is uncertain. I think I'm almost done for this episode. I started off wanting to create multiple areas, but instead I've worked on the gameplay a lot. I think that was the right thing to do, because now my game is much more enjoyable. All in all, I have made some big improvements. The last thing I'll add is a simple title screen. If you're interested in playing the adventures of Bob yourself, you can do so on my itch.io page. See the link in the description. For the next version, I'll probably really work on the different areas. But maybe I'll do a quick game jam for some variety. Anyways, thanks for watching and see you in the next devlog.
Everybody